said, that's us, and we're now married. We're directors of the program. So it's you folks who clearly have made the difference. And I just want to end with one comment, which I think is especially apropos of the Chancellor's observations, and that is that these days, the energy of the students and the creativity that you bring to this enterprise is vital, and it's necessary, but it's not sufficient. The support of the university in this day and age is absolutely critical. So I want to close with a very special note of thanks to the Chancellor and to the whole university administration for the kind of commitment that you're making. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to introduce our major speaker for this evening, and how apropos with what's been going on with the debate tonight and the debate the other week to have Robert Reich here with us. I think that he's taken time out of his personal schedule to spend some time with us, and so you didn't come here to hear me introduce him, you came here to hear him speak. And so at this point, Dr. Reich, please. Well, thank you.
Of all of the introductions I've ever had, that was the shortest. Let me get on. I'd like to see who's here. There you are. When I started my years in Washington, which, by the way, is a very hard town, I was 6'2". It wore me down, but I'm glad to be here. I was exactly the same height as the Chancellor. And by the way, and I don't mean to overly compliment, because having tenure means never having to say anything nice about a chancellor, but this is the best chancellor in the country. And very modest. I don't know how many of you know the awards that Bob has won, Carnegie Foundation recently, and you were so modest, nobody talks about it. You don't talk about it, nobody talks about it, but you are a great leader of this institution. Thank you. And I also want to make a point about Berkeley. I'm new to Berkeley. I'm to the Berkeley faculty, the Cal faculty. I've only been here about 2.5 years. One of my great regrets is not coming here years and years and years ago. Well, I could have done that because I was here in 1968. I was here as a GSI, or teaching assistant, in 1968 for the summer, and I remember I always wanted to come to California. I always wanted to come to Berkeley. I had an opportunity to be a GSI, and I remember in my beat-up Volkswagen coming up University Avenue, and it was the summer of '68, and I smelled the eucalyptus. It was not just eucalyptus. It was eucalyptus and marijuana and tear gas. It was the most, extraordinary blend. When I knew that I had come to Mecca, I was actually here. It took me a long time to get back. This is also the greatest public university in the world. And it needs very much the help of its sons and daughters. And I don't want to dwell on this. You have not come here to hear me talk about the finances of Berkeley and Cal. But let me just say this. I have taught at Harvard, and I've taught at Brandeis, and I've taught at some of the best institutions in the world, and I've attended some wonderful institutions. But I've never been in a place where students are more appreciative. There's more economic diversity here than any place I've ever taught, and students are passionate about learning in a way that they are in no other place. And many of Cal alumni don't know how needy Cal is. They assume it's a public university, and so, as a public university, it must be that the state is paying all the bills. Please spread the word. I was talking recently to somebody, quite a prominent and wealthy American, who was talking about his philanthropic activities, and he was telling me that he just made a huge gift to a university, and I said, which university? He said, Harvard. And I could not help myself. I said, why in heaven's name did you make a gift to Harvard University? Do you know how much Harvard University needs your gift with a $32 billion endowment? You know how much it needs your gift? It doesn't need your gift at all. Your gift it disappears. It's a rounding error. Why don't you put your gift where it's really going to count and where it's going to be noted and where it's going to help a lot of young people who really need it? And that is UC Berkeley. Now, Cal on the Capitol is a fabulous program, and Mike, thank you so much for your initiative and your entrepreneurship in getting this thing going. I wish I had had the opportunity. I'm going to tell you one little anecdote, and I'm going to get on to today's politics and economics. I did not have an opportunity. I went to another university, and I did not have an opportunity to do Cal on the Capitol, but we had a little tiny miniature version of Cal on the Capitol, and I did go to Washington for the summer of 1967. Anybody here who was in Washington in the summer of '67? I don't remember seeing you. I was an intern in Robert F. Kennedy's office for the summer. Now that sounds maybe a little bit glamorous, but I was assigned to run Robert F. Kennedy's signature machine. And I did this for about a month and a half, and I was getting a little bit bored. You know those machines that have a pen at the end of a big arm? Those days it was purely mechanical then, and I would take all of the letters that the secretaries and assistants had written, and all day long I'd put them in the machine, line them up so that the signature machine. But one night I decided that I would use Robert F. Kennedy's stationery, and I would type a number of letters to my friend. And then put them in the signature machine. And to this day, they haven't been on eBay yet, but to this day there are several hundred letters that go something like this. Dear Mr. Dworkin, congratulations on having the largest nose in New York State. But then one day, I was standing outside the elevator. I'm in the Senate office building where Kennedy's office was, and the elevator doors opened, and there was Robert F. Kennedy, surrounded by his aides. And my mouth and my jaw hung open. I was speechless. He looked at me. He gazed in my direction. And he said, "How's the summer going, Bob?" He knew my name. And I stammered something. But I'll tell you, I could have manned that signature machine for the next 10 months. Well, I was inspired by my year in Washington, and I was inspired to get into politics, and many of you have been so inspired by Cal in the Capitol. And here we are in 2008, and we have a financial meltdown of sorts, hopefully not a complete financial meltdown, and we have an election fewer than 5 weeks away. And tomorrow morning, the House of Representatives is going to vote on the largest bailout bill, but they don't want to call it a bailout in the Treasury, they want to call it a rescue. The largest rescue bill in history. Some $700 billion, which could be $1 trillion, it could be more. And I, like many others, have been on the phone talking to members of Congress, not lobbying them, they are calling because they're seeking all kinds